Since the beginning of 2025, there have been 101 wildland fires in California, a rate of almost 9 fires a day. Most people's first thoughts would be to assume it's the hot and dry nature of the state that leads to the rampant fires we see every year, and that's not necessarily wrong, but the problem lies deeper than that.
This is new video of the Palisades Fire, showing thick smoke and powerful wind fueling massive flames you see here on the side of a highway. Homes are destroyed and tens of thousands of people remain under evacuation.
The Palisades Fires, which ignited on January 7th, has already consumed over 24,000 acres and is only 11% contained. Tragically, it has claimed at least 5 lives and destroyed more than 5,000 structures, including homes and businesses. As a result of the fire, the Los Angeles Unified School District canceled classes to ensure student safety, and over 100,000 residents have already been displaced. Strong Santa Ana winds have exacerbated the fire's spread, hindering containment efforts. These winds, which are extreme, dry winds that are common during the colder LA months, have already topped speeds of 60 miles per hour and have been clocked in at speeds as high as 100 miles per hour in some areas. Experts hypothesize that this fire could have an estimated bill that could reach up to $135 to $150 billion, potentially making this the costliest disaster in U.S. history. But these fires didn't just appear out of nowhere. To understand why California experiences wildfires in the way they have, we may have to take a closer look at the climate and the land of the state.
Pops, explosions, and flames sweeping through a Los Angeles hillside, dotted with celebrity homes as winds picked up Tuesday night.
Considered a Mediterranean climate, California experiences what are known as wet winters and dry summers. Winters characterized by high amounts of precipitation, followed up by arid summers with little, or in California's case, essentially zero rainfall. This results in rapid vegetation growth during cooler parts of the year, only to later become dried out during the summer months. Additionally, due to an overall increase in global temperatures and the dried out wood and vegetation, the fire season in California, which would traditionally only last 4 to 6 months, is instead stretched out to persist nearly year-round. This tandem leads to a more extreme dry season, greatly increasing the odds of a large-scale fire like the one we've seen in Palisades. But nature alone doesn't explain the full story of the Palisades. Due to the rapidly growing population of large cities in California, it only makes sense that cities would be expanded. This expansion, however, drives more and more people into high-risk zones for wildfires. Considering that over 85% of wildfires are caused by human activity, not just from unattended campfires, but also from downed power lines, it comes as no surprise that the closer we encroach upon these at-risk areas, the chances of a potential wildfire increase. But what if we're missing something that's right in front of us? What if the fires aren't the problem? What if we're just in the way? Well, to get there, first we have to start with the ironic fuel to the fire: fire suppression. Let's start from the beginning. The story of California's wildlife crises is deeply tied to the history of fire suppression in the United States. In the early 1900s, a single event changed the way Americans thought about fire forever. Known as the Great Fire of 1910, or the Big Burn, this blaze destroyed 3 million acres across Idaho, Montana, Washington, and British Columbia in just 2 days, also claiming the lives of 78 firefighters in the process. Started by dry lightning and moving quickly through dried out forest lands, the Big Burn went on to burn an area equivalent to the entire state of Connecticut. This disaster galvanized public opinion. Fire was now seen as a destructive enemy that needed to be fought at all costs. Literally, as Congress went on to double the budget of the U.S. Forest Service as a result. The Forest Service then adopted an aggressive policy of total fire suppression, with influential figures like President Teddy Roosevelt backing the cause. By the 1920s and 1930s, public support for suppression grew even stronger, especially after fires wiped out 1,000 homes in Berkeley and burned 60,000 acres in Malibu. While these policies initially seemed effective, they had unintended consequences. By the mid-20th century, forests in California were packed with decades worth of fuel. Fires that might have once burned small areas now had the potential to explode into massive infernos. This buildup of fuel has directly contributed to the scale of wildfires we see today.
And how important it is you listen to these evacuation orders.
The consequences of fire suppression have become painfully clear in recent years. Of the 10 largest wildfires in California's history, 7 have occurred in just the past 5 years. In 2020 alone, the August Complex fire burned over 1 million acres, setting a new record for the state. These fires aren't just larger than before, they're also burning more intensely, fueled by decades of accumulated debris. The subsequent 2 years of relatively mild, wet weather provided a reprieve, but in a way that only pushed the danger down the road. The impact on human life is devastating. Thousands of homes are destroyed each year, and the health effects of wildfire smoke are felt far beyond the fire's immediate vicinity. The 2013 Rim Fire, for example, exposed 5 times more people to unhealthy air conditions than would have occurred if the area had been regularly purged with smaller fires. But for such a destructive phenomenon as wildfires, simply letting them burn, controlled or not, poses its own independent risk.
And take a look. This is video of the flames burning at the Getty Villa Museum tonight. The president and CEO of the museum says some trees and vegetation burned, but good news is the galleries are protected.
Experts agree that the solution isn't to fight fire, but to embrace it. For the last half of the 20th century, the annual area burned in California was around 250,000 acres a year, whereas the best available science suggests between 4.4 and 12 million acres were burned in California annually before the arrival of Europeans. Controlled burns, small, carefully planned fires, can reduce the amount of fuel and force and prevent larger, more dangerous wildfires from occurring. By burning under controlled conditions, we can limit the intensity of fires, protect communities, and even improve the health of ecosystems. If you're still skeptical, prescribed burns aren't just theoretical. Indigenous people in California have been using controlled burns for thousands of years to manage the land. Their practices kept forests healthy and resilient, preventing the kind of massive fuel buildup we see today. Modern science backs this up. Studies show that areas that undergo regular prescribed burns experience fewer and less intense wildfires. Studies show that areas that undergo regular prescribed burns experience fewer and less intense wildfires. As I stated earlier, however, controlled fires are only as controlled as the person who is controlling the fire is equipped to handle. Extensive training would have to be undergone to ensure the containment of the fires is well maintained, but considering the current budget of the fire department, the true hurdle would most likely be the understaffing of the fire department. Alright, so this is the end of the video. In the description, I'm leaving a link to the California Fire Foundation if you'd like to donate to help aid those in Los Angeles County fires. If you have another charity you prefer, that works just as well. You can leave any thoughts, suggestions, or something I may have missed in the comments if you'd like. If you don't feel like leaving just yet, check out my last video about HMPV, and maybe think about subscribing too if you feel like it. If not, that's fine too. And that's all. Have a good day.